Hello, I know you. You're the Bad Batch. Hunter, Wrecker, Crosshair, Echo, and Tech. It's me, Omega, from the corridor. But I want to go with you. Yeah? Yeah. How's it going, everybody? Jake Roto here with Youtini.com, and I'm bringing you guys another video today where we're talking about Canon Series books. I know all of you guys are ready to dive into a series because you're not even allowed to be a Star Wars fan if you're not a fan of series. Series? Siri? Shut up, Siri. I'm just kidding. You don't have to be a fan of a series if you want to be a Star Wars fan. It really kind of helps. I mean, you can watch the movies without paying attention to the series, but you're only really gonna get so far. You know, you're gonna get to the point where it's gonna make more sense if you watch the other movies, and if you watch it as a series, there's like a way to do it. It's just series are a really big thing if you're into Star Wars. But we're gonna clear some things up today. If you're wondering which series you want to jump into as far as reading in the Star Wars Expanded Universe, we've got some recommendations that we're going to give to you guys, let you know where some of these different series fall on the timelines, which characters they follow, and by the end of this video you should definitely have an idea of where you want to go next. With that being said, don't forget that these videos are brought to you by Audible. If you head over to Youtini.com/Audible, you'll be able to check out what you need to do to get a free trial to Audible.com, where you can listen to some of these different stories right from your iPhone or Android device or Samsung or whatever world you live in as far as technology goes. You can listen to these stories right from your phone. It's like having a Star Wars movie in your ears. We're talking sound effects, we're talking music. Some of these stories even have multiple voices for multiple characters, multiple actors. They're really high quality. So once you decide which series you're going to start reading today, head on over to Youtini.com/Audible, where you can sign up for that free trial. You'll get your downloads, you'll start going, and I guarantee, I don't know if I guarantee because some of you guys are into pretty weird stuff, I can pretty much guarantee that you're not going to cancel this trial after you start it. So let's take a look at what we've got. Rather than kind of going in chronological order, let's take a look at what the first series was when Disney took over Lucasfilm back in the mid-2010s. The first series that Lucasfilm decided to kind of push with their new canon was the Aftermath trilogy. Now, the Aftermath trilogy is one of my favorites. Some of you guys may remember the first book, Star Wars Aftermath, coming out during that Journey to the Force Awakens media initiative that was taking place right before The Force Awakens released in theaters all those years ago. The Aftermath trilogy actually follows some of the main characters in the entire Star Wars story, particularly Princess Leia and Han Solo. But they're not the main characters of these stories. We actually follow characters like Nora Wexley and Wedge Antilles. We meet some new characters along the way, Mr. Bones, some of these characters which are actually some expanded universe favorites. And what really makes the Aftermath trilogy great is because it gives us a glimpse into what was going on in the New Republic after the events of Return of the Jedi. For those of you who are always kind of wondering like what went on after Return of the Jedi, this is the closest thing you're probably going to get to that. Now, with that being said, the Star Wars universe is starting to flesh out this story of post-Return of the Jedi galaxy a little bit more, particularly on screen. We're starting to get a little bit more in The Mandalorian as far as what the world was like after Return of the Jedi, and there are even some tie-ins with these books into The Mandalorian. Remember Cobb Vanth from Season 2? He's going to make an appearance. Have you played Star Wars Squadrons yet and you recognize Rey Sloane with the Empire? She plays a huge role in this story. Now, those of you who are the canon snobs, and I can say that because I'm one of them, may find some issues in some of these books. These books were written very early in Disney's unveiling of the new canon. So some things have changed. One of the things that we always try to remind people to consider and to think about whenever they are reading these stories is, one, it's a story. It's just a story. Some things change, some things work out a little bit differently than they wanted. Sometimes things need to change for the greater story to happen. I like it to be continuous. I like the continuity between those things, but there are going to be some little things that people pick apart on these, and sometimes if you read on the message boards and stuff online, they get a bad rap. Ignore that stuff. These are good books. So if you're into what was going on in the galaxy right after Return of the Jedi, a little bit of political, a little bit of action, check out these books. The next big series has to do with a fan favorite, whether you are an old Legends reader. Not old, I mean, I'm not calling you old, but I'm pretty sure Heir to the Empire is the same age as me at this point. Hashtag Dirty 30. 31. The next series that you're going to want to check out is going to be the Thrawn trilogy. Now, a lot of times you'll hear this referred to as the new Thrawn trilogy, and if anybody watching this video is a fan of Rebels, the TV show Rebels, the animated series that had Ezra, Hera Syndulla, the Ghost Crew, all of that, these books actually kind of weave through that storyline. Grand Admiral Thrawn does not actually make an appearance in Star Wars Rebels until season 3, but a lot of the characters that you see with Thrawn in that TV series are going to pop up in these books. We also get to see Thrawn interact with the Emperor, and we see Thrawn get to interact with Darth Vader and Anakin Skywalker throughout these books. So there are definitely some exciting books to check out. If you're a fan of that original Thrawn trilogy with Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, and Last Command, you can't go wrong with these books. One of the things that is kind of awesome with the new Thrawn trilogy is that it was also written by Timothy Zahn, who wrote the original Thrawn books that are now considered legends. So the original creator of the character is the one penning these books and these stories. So we still feel a lot of that original Thrawn that we know from the 90s. An added bonus with these, though, is that we never really got to see Thrawn in the original Thrawn trilogy interact with the Emperor or Darth Vader. This was all after the fact. But now we get to see how Timothy Zahn would have written Thrawn with, I guess, Thrawn's masters. Speaking of Timothy Zahn and kind of jumping ahead, a current series or a current trilogy that is making a run right now is the Thrawn Ascendancy trilogy. As of right now, there are only 2 books released, but the 3rd book is going to be out in fall of 2021. The first book, Chaos Rising, and the second book, Greater Good, are going to cover what Thrawn's life was like outside of the galaxy as we know it. Without going into too much history, we do know that Thrawn is a blue guy with red eyes, and we've really never seen anyone else like him in the Star Wars universe, not even popped up somewhere else doing something else. So he came from somewhere else, and he's part of something bigger. And this trilogy kind of explores that and talks about what made Thrawn who he is. It's a really interesting story, and I totally recommend that you check this one out. As far as where it falls on the timeline, it actually takes place around the same time as the end of the Clone Wars. Whenever the events of Revenge of the Sith were gearing up in the galaxy as we know it, this is what Thrawn was up to in an unknown part of the galaxy. What is really nice to find out about these, though, is that, you know, it's all tied together somehow. This is Star Wars, so you don't want to count that piece of it out. Another added bonus that comes with these new series, like the new Thrawn trilogy or the 3rd Thrawn trilogy, or whatever whatever trilogy this is, Thrawn trilogy, Thrology. Another added bonus is whenever Disney acquired Lucasfilm, they said that they wanted to show just how big the universe was and how awesome this universe was, and that sometimes there are things going on in the Star Wars universe that don't really have anything to do with Anakin Skywalker and his super jacked up family. This is kind of going down that path. We're getting stories in this galaxy far, far away that show us just how big the galaxy is and that there are other things going on. You like space stuff? Go here. One of my favorite new series in the grand scheme of things as far as new Star Wars canon goes is the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. Kind of tough to explain this one because In short, it's about fighter pilots after the events of Return of the Jedi. These stories kind of tie into some of the stories that were going on during the post-Return of the Jedi events like Operation Cinder. So you will recognize, if you've played that Battlefront 2 storyline, read some of the other stories, you will recognize some of the events in these books. But if you want to talk about a true character study and you want to see a 3-act story of some characters and where they were at and how they hit their highs and how they hit their lows and what their relationships were like with each other. Yeah, this is a Star Wars story. Yeah, this is a fighter pilot story. Yeah, this gives you some indication on what life was like in the New Republic after the events of Return of the Jedi. But these stories will cut you deep, man. This would be my recommendation on where you need to start. Because it kind of, the way that the new Thrawn trilogy was going, it gave us an indication that the events of Star Wars affected more than just those who were holding the lightsabers. So I definitely recommend checking this one out. Alphabet Squadron, Shadowfall, and Victory's Price. These 3 books, the most recent one just came out last year. So it's a pretty recent trilogy. It's got everything that you need. In the young adult category, we've got the Queen trilogy, which is getting ready to be finished this fall. E.K. Johnston started out with Queen's Shadow back a couple years ago, and then she followed up with Queen's Peril, where we got some insight into what life is like for Queen Amidala and her handmaidens. What started out as kind of a nice little Padme character story is now going to be fleshed out as a full trilogy that will be finished this fall with Queen's Hope, which is really awesome because these characters like Padme and her handmaidens, Sabe, Rabe, Dorme, Corday, they all have an A. It's a thing. It's a whole thing. They're starting to show up in some comic runs like the post-Empire Strikes Back comic runs. So these books are going to play a big role in the greater story. They're quicker reads, and they're not as difficult reads because they are in the young adult category, but they carry just as much weight with the whole Star Wars story as anything. If you are a fan of the movies and you wanted to stick to the movies, don't forget that there are novelizations. Get them in the right order here. I guess we can do it like that. I'm trying to think how you guys are gonna see it. There are, oh, I feel like, maybe do it like this. Yeah. There are novelizations for each one of the movies, which give you a little bit extra as far as, you know, what was going on in some of the characters' minds. There are some scenes in the books that play a little bit bigger of a role than they did in the movies because we can see things a different way. I mean, I guess you could call this a trilogy, but it's the movies. So you decide if this would be something you would want to pick up. I'd recommend probably doing these towards the end after you get through some of the other stuff, because what you'll see is that, you know, a lot of the main stuff in the books really does stick and does stay pretty true to what was on screen. So it's a cool little afterthought that you can check out. But if you're looking for new stuff, if you really want to jump into everything, definitely check out one of these original series. Overall, I think this gives us a good place to start. It's 3, 6, 9, 12, 13, 14, 16 books to pick from. So if you can't pick one book out of what I just talked about here, I don't know what to tell you. Leave a message in the comments or something and say, hey, Jake, none of these books sound cool. What should I do? And I guess we'll have to decide then what to do. But I think you got something to pick from. Whether you want to look at what's going on after the events of Return of the Jedi, whether you want to jump into some of those prequel characters, whether you like big blue guys, or whether or not you just want to know what was really going on even deeper than what we saw on screen, you have something to pick from. Star Wars is a series story. It's a saga. That's what made it what it was, is because it is a long, extended story, and we love it because it's just really awesome to see maybe down this path how the events of that path affected things. It's really great. So find a story that fits for you. The series are really awesome because if you're one of those people that you don't know what to read whenever you're finished with one, at least this will knock about 3 things out of the way for you, because once you read the first Thrawn book, you want to read the second Thrawn book, you want to read the third Thrawn book, and after that you're back at that situation, but at least then you'll be 3 books down before you're in that situation. Regardless of what you do, remember Youtini.com is here to help you throughout your Star Wars journey and understanding where you need to go and what you need to do to understand the Star Wars universe better. Everything that you need to know is on Youtini.com, and we have a whole slew of podcasts and resources and timelines and all things available for you online so that you can interact with us, you can ask us questions, and you can join in on this journey with us. Our flagship podcast premieres every Monday night live on YouTube Live, where you can listen to Corey, Eric, Charles, and the rest of the gang put together The Living Force, an award-winning nominated podcast that gives you all of the best Star Wars stuff right in your ears. You can also interact with us on all of our social media platforms. Don't forget we have our Discord, which has rooms and rooms and rooms full of people who are just like you. They want to talk about Star Wars, they want to ask questions, they want to learn, and they want to do so in a positive way. There's no dumb questions. We are here to help you, and we want you to join in with us, join the team, and keep tuning into our videos. Let us know in the comments, what do you like, what do you don't like, what do you want to see next? Just leave a comment and I will respond to your question right there on the comment board. Just make sure that it's nice, because my feelings get hurt easy. But I know I don't have to worry about you guys, so keep reading, keep exploring, and remember, the Force will be with you always.